Hey folks, wanted to introduce you to some of the tools we use in the optical shop. This little baby here is called a lensometer. So you can see that little star reticle in there. That helps us align the patient's prescriptions on the axes required. See up there, sphere still? That's because people who have astigmatisms have this component called the cylinder. On to the next tool. Heat band. We use this little baby for adjustments. It gets very hot. It actually has glass beads in it. I don't have it on right now or I wouldn't be sticking my fingers in it. And we use that for adjusting plastic frames. As you can see in the back, there's some hand tools. This little bad boy right here, this caliper, couldn't live without it. Having to measure the difference in diameter of holes or accurate circumference when it comes to something like working with millimeters, 27.1 millimeters matters. So, love that tool. Here's the bad boy. This is a blocker. As to its name, it implies it blocks the lenses. These things are blocks. Okay? This allows me to lock into place on a lens all the particular things I need to have happen. The vertical movement, the horizontal movement, and this machine does it all. And there's a graph up in there that I can actually see through here. I don't know if you can, too much light. That makes sure that I'm aligning it properly. Alrighty, over here, this bad boy. This is my tracer. I love my tracer. The tracer is electronically connected to the software in the edging machine, and what it basically does is it replicates perfectly the circumference of the frame or lens, either one, and transfers the information over to this machine. So this is the bad boy that gets the job done. And when I tell you, I don't know how opticians lived without it. I don't. I can't imagine the grinding wheel sitting there and pedaling with my foot. Speaking of archaic ways of doing it, this tracing machine, I tell you what, years ago, what we used to have to do was take the lens out of the frame, put it onto a special piece of plastic that had a chuck that corresponded to it, a plate like this that corresponded to it, trace the lens, and take it over to a grinding machine, grind the extra material around the edge, and then have to use a hand file to file it down. And we were back and forth into the frame to make sure the axis was correct, we hadn't altered it, that we hadn't taken too much off in one area so there'd be a gap in the lens. Love this machine.